In this video, I am going to talk about finding out which database is consuming maximum I/O. Just in the previous video, I showed how to find out which database is consuming maximum CPU cycles. And just to be technically correct, I mentioned that it is actually the workloads that consume CPU cycles, not the database. But it always helps to narrow down amongst so many databases that you have, which database is consuming maximum CPU time. And likewise, in this video, I'm going to show you amongst so many databases that you have in your instances, which database is actually contributing towards maximum I/O. And when you talk about I/O, it's read and write. And of course, read and write put together, where you can try to find out total I/O. And DMVs are, of course, really the bread and butter for SQL professionals, and they give so much information. It is so overwhelming when you work with dynamic management views. There are more than 200 DMVs, and each DMV has these dozens and dozens of columns with so many metrics flying around. It is always important that we use the right DMV, choose the right specific columns that we need, and of course, do a lot of mathematics and try to extract or compute more meaningful information. Now, this is a very simple output that I'm trying to construct, which is get the database name and get the total I/O in megabytes, and of course the read and the write. And total is going to be read plus the write. And of course, sort this data in descending format, so I can actually see my top 5 or top 10 databases that are contributing maximum towards I/O. And then this kind of analysis is helpful, where I can focus my troubleshooting, I can focus my performance tuning towards such user databases, and then go and look into those workloads, indexes, and a lot of other things. But finding out the databases really helps in many ways. If you wish to stay connected with me, you can subscribe to this exclusive distribution list, Connect with AB. Members of this distribution list are people who have watched my videos or read a blog or even attended pre-cons or a session at a conference. And I also have members from all my master classes in this distribution list. So yes, this distribution list is pretty exclusive. The link is available in the YouTube description. You can also follow me on Twitter, _Bansal. Also, please be aware that every year in Bangalore, in India, we organize a very large-scale data analytics and artificial intelligence conference called Data Platform Summit. If you wish to learn more about this, log on to www.dps10.com or just drop a mail to contact@dps10.com. This is a conference where delegates from more than 20 countries join us annually, and we get close to 1,500 attendees. We deliver more than 100 sessions across 3 days and more than 20 pre-cons on 3 days. So this is a whole week of learning from Monday to Saturday, and one of the signature tech events in Asia. Microsoft experts, MVPs, MCMs, and industry veterans from more than 16 countries join us. So if you're really serious about building a career in data analytics and AI, and if you wish to learn from experts and your peers, this is a conference. This is a learning event that you should not miss annually. Action time, let's jump to demo. Let's get started. The DMV that I'm going to use is DM_IO virtual file stats. And as I've mentioned a couple of times before, there are dynamic management views and there are dynamic management functions, and dynamic management functions, they accept parameters. So for this particular DMV/DMF, you have to supply the database ID that you want to work with. And of course, you can also specify the file ID. So if you see, a database can have multiple files, the log file and the database files, or rather the data files. So you could exactly see the IO statistics for each database and for each file, data file or log file in that database. But we want to get an output where we are trying to see cumulative information across all the database. So I am going to specify null for the database ID, and I'm going to say null for file ID, which is going to give me the statistics for all the databases and all the files. And it says dim IO virtual file stats as null star from. Okay, so that will be sys dot. Sorry about that. Now let's go and look into the output. Sorry again. So this is the kind of output that you get, and you can see a lot of metrics flying across the screen. So you have the database ID, and as I said, each database ID has multiple files out there, and 2 here stands for the log file, 1 stands for the data file, and of course if you have more data files, the numbering will be like 3, 4, so on and so forth. And then important columns for us here, of course, is number of bytes read, and then you have a number of bytes written. So you have the read and the written, and of course if we take a total of that, we get the total IO. So these are some of the columns that I'm going to use in my mathematics. So let's keep this a little aside, and let's start formulating the query now, which we need. And let's take this, and how am I going to formulate? There's one more thing that I want to show you before I actually start formulating the query, and based on the output that I need. It's always good to go into docs.microsoft.com and try to find out the DMV or the set of DMVs that you're going to work with. It gives me a good overview as to what really the DMV is all about, and which all SQL database products it applies to. As many of you know, we have SQL Server on-premise, and we have Azure SQL database as well, to see if this DMV will be applicable to Azure SQL DB or not. It helps because when you're writing a query or you're troubleshooting, you may always want to include or write queries that can run across different products, on-prem as well as cloud. And then I give a special focus on all these columns here. So it always makes sense to spend some time reading through the description of what each column means here. And then is it important for you in your query output, and would you like to do some mathematics on that? And then of course there are some sample queries with these DMVs, and you can always copy paste and kind of run them to just get a quick overview of what the output is like. So yeah, a bit of research always helps in trying to get the right kind of output. Back to SQL Server Management Studio. Now let's try to formulate this query. So first things first, we need the name of the database, and as you can see the result here, you have the database ID. So I will use the function which is db name, and I'm going to say database ID, which is the column name, and let's say as database name. So that's my first column that I get. Now I'm going to play with columns that are number of bytes read, and I will just do the formula bit, and then I can see number of bytes read, and then I will say number of bytes written. That will be my second column, and in fact I will take these two and actually say number of files read plus written, and I'm going to call this as total IO in MB. Now this is bytes, so of course you got to convert this into MB, and so I can just do select 1024 into 1024, and what do you get is 1048576. So what you can do is divide bytes and get into kilobytes, and then kilobytes into megabytes. So we can always say this plus this, sorry about that, and we can always divide this by the number 1048576, so that you can get the total MB. And then because I have multiple files here, log files and the data files, of course I want to group, so I can do a sum here of this value and get as total I. Okay, and let's move to the next one, and I can do the same here as sum of number of bytes read, and likewise I have to get this value here as well to convert this into MB, and this will be total IO MB, so this can be just read MB. I mean, feel free to put any column name that gives you a lot of comfort, and then number of bytes written, and then I can say 10. Let me just copy paste this one here, and this will be my write MB. There you go. And now we get this from virtual file stats. Yeah, of course, sorry, I don't want to remove this null thing because I'm getting this across all the columns. And then I can, of course, do an order by, let me say group by first. So I want to group by the database ID column, group by the database ID, and we'll do an order by total IOMB in descending. So this is what we want to do. So here goes our query where we get the database name, we get the total IO in megabytes, and of course if you want to be more precise you can always convert this as into decimal, and then you can get fractions, but for I mean basic analysis it's good enough to get a whole number as well. And then you get the read and the write, and you may want to focus on order by total IOMB, but if you are trying to investigate a lot of read issues, you can maybe try to drill down on order by read MB, or for that matter even write MB. So that completely depends on how you are trying to investigate your IO issues in your environment. And let's go and execute this, and here you get the output. This is very similar to what I was trying to show on the slide. So now when you see this kind of output, it always helps you to kind of drill down or narrow down on some of these top databases that are consuming or contributing towards heavy IO usage. Back to the slides. Hope the demo was worth your time. My name is Amit Bansal, and I have been working with SQL Server since 1997. Over the last so many years, I have worked with more than 200 customers around SQL Server, performance tuning, consulting engagements, training, and content development. Overall, I must have delivered more than 600 assignments and probably trained more than 10,000 SQL Server professionals. I am a Microsoft Certified Master of SQL Server and also Microsoft Most Valuable Professional Awardee from Microsoft. Apart from my professional work, whenever I get an opportunity, I speak at global conferences, including our own Data Platform Summit, Ignite, TechEd, SQL Bits, and PAS Summit. On community front, I spend my time with dataplatformgeeks.com and SQLServerGeeks.com, and I help build communities, and I also help organize a large-scale conference called Data Platform Summit. And you can see a few pictures from our last year's conferences. More than 1,000 people join Data Platform Summit each year from more than 20 countries. Microsoft product experts from Redmond, India, China, Israel, Dublin, MVPs from more than 16 countries, and industry veterans. They deliver more than 100 breakout sessions, open talks, and chalk talks at this conference. We have exclusive learning formats like even roundtables and hands-on labs. And if you're serious about Microsoft Data Platform and SQL Server and the complete Azure stack, this is a signature event that you should not miss. You can visit dps10.com to learn more about this conference, which has been promoted even by media and online websites as one of the largest community-driven learning events of Asia. Well, then thank you very much for your time for watching this video. I hope to meet you again soon in another video.